Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining Building Bridges Across the Battery Ecosystem Roundtable. I'm Paul Kearns, the director of Argonne National Laboratory. I'm honored to host today's event with U.S. Department of Energy Deputy Secretary David Turk and Senator Dick Durbin. It is the right time for us to come together for public and private partnerships that advance battery development. Argonne has a long history in battery innovation dating to the 1960s. And has emerged as a leader in tackling today's transportation energy storage problems, thanks to decades of sustained support from the Department of Energy's Vehicles Technologies Office. Our research and development spans the full value chain of battery innovations. Through the Joint Center for Energy Storage Research, headquartered at Argonne, more than 180 researchers from 19 labs, universities, and companies from across the nation come together to build batteries from the bottom up. Atom by atom, molecule by molecule, for a broad range of energy storage applications, including long-duration storage for the electric grid. Argonne also plays a key role in scaling these promising battery materials from milligrams to kilograms through our materials engineering research facility. And to complete the value chain, we are leading new innovations for recycling battery materials through our Resell Center. And this is just a sample of the breakthrough technologies that are taking place across the DOE National Laboratory complex in energy storage. Many other laboratories, including Lawrence Berkeley, Oak Ridge, Pacific Northwest, and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, are leading in this cutting-edge field. All of us can still do more. Escalating threats of climate change make it essential that we redouble our efforts. The battery ecosystem faces many challenges as it looks to spur development and increase output. Scarce resources, difficult overseas suppliers, and increasing costs are all obstacles to the clean energy future. For these and many other reasons, it is imperative for us to foster more public-private partnerships for advanced batteries. Collaborating across many different institutions and sectors will help us quickly identify problems and craft effective solutions. We are encouraged with the launch of the Federal Consortium for Advanced Batteries, or FCAB, and eager to contribute to this new collaboration. FCAB released the National Blueprint for Lithium-Based Batteries this summer, which describes an aggressive vision to establish a domestic supply chain in batteries. Achieving the vision and goals of the blueprint requires a concerted effort among our government and private sector partners to develop the batteries of the future, mass produce them, and establish a resilient supply chain. To enable this partnership to take root, we have announced the creation of LiBridge, a unique public-private alliance committed to accelerating the development of a robust and secure domestic supply chain for lithium-based batteries. LiBridge is focused on bridging gaps in the lithium battery supply chain and marks the first collaboration of its kind in the U.S. battery industry. Argonne will work with our fellow national laboratories across the country to support the public portion of LiBridge. In addition, private industry participation will be facilitated through an alliance of 3 US-based convener organizations: NatBat International, the New York Battery and Energy Storage Technology Consortium, or NIBEST, and New Energy Nexus. To explore the many ways, actually, in which we can accomplish these goals, we have 3 experts in the battery and energy field. But before we hear from our speakers, I would like to introduce our elected and appointed federal officials who are here with us today. First, Deputy Secretary Turk will provide remarks. He is second in command at the U.S. Department of Energy. This past March, he was sworn in as the Deputy Secretary of Energy after a nearly unanimous vote in the U.S. Senate. Previously, he was a Deputy Executive Director of the International Energy Agency. He is a veteran in the Obama White House. He served in various positions in the U.S. National Security Council and the U.S. Department of State, focused on national security and climate change issues. At the start of his career, he was a congressional staffer. Deputy Secretary Turk, the floor is yours, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Paul, for that very kind introduction. And a big thanks to Argonne, just a phenomenal national lab, a huge national resource for us, all leading this effort. And we're glad, just as you said, Paul, to see the involvement and the partnership really of our other national labs as well, Oak Ridge and Pacific Northwest National Renewable Energy Lab in Berkeley, as well. And we couldn't be more grateful to our trailblazing partners as well, to NotBet and NY-Best and the New Energy Nexus for being here today and part of this incredibly important partnership. This administration couldn't be more excited to see the LiBridge Alliance come together, because we know that our ability to meet President Biden's incredibly ambitious climate goals depends on batteries. Batteries are a fundamental technology for us to be successful. We've got goals of more than 50% emission reductions by 2030, 100% clean electricity by 2035. These decarbonization goals require power sector, transportation sector to move as quickly as we possibly can on the decarbonization front. And batteries play an absolutely integral role in both grid storage and in electric vehicles. We need batteries to be cheaper, to be more efficient, and to be recyclable. We've spent many, many years and much funding, taxpayer funding on batteries over the years at DOE. Over the past decade, we've helped reduce cost of lithium EV battery packs by 85% to $133 per kilowatt hour. We want to keep reducing that from $133 to $60 per kilowatt hour. We want to cut recharge time to under 15 minutes for a 300-mile range. We need new battery chemistries that use fewer rare minerals, and we're working on recycling as well. Our research shows that up to 40% of the materials for future batteries can come from recycled materials. We're focusing one of our Earth shots, our efforts to really drive additional cost reductions on long duration energy storage. That is over 10 hours. So we need near-term storage, we need long-term storage, and even seasonal storage. And we're spending a lot of focus and a lot of attention and a lot of funding on those efforts. And of course, the $200 million in funding we announced on Wednesday, just a couple days ago, for 26 projects to advance battery, electric vehicle, and connected vehicle innovations. To meet this moment in front of us, this opportunity, this challenge on climate change, we not only need better batteries, but we need to scale up their production. We have no time to waste. That's why it's so important to bolster our domestic supply chain for batteries so that we can make them here in the US, creating American jobs in the process. Right now, the US has 8% of global EV lithium-ion cell manufacturing capacity, only 8%. And demand is projected to skyrocket over the next few years, straining these supply chains. President Biden's executive order on supply chains that he issued in February, just 1 month after becoming president, directed federal agencies to identify vulnerabilities and figure out how to bolster supply chains for critical technologies, and including and especially batteries. We released a national blueprint in June for securing lithium battery supply chain by 2030. The Department of Energy, working with the Commerce Department, working with the State Department, Defense Department, and others to set goals for every step of that supply chain. The report sets goals that will create jobs at every one of these steps, including for fossil fuel workers that have powered our nation for over a century. Extracting critical minerals, processing, manufacturing, recycling. Investing in domestic supply chains isn't just about reducing vulnerabilities and confronting climate change. It's also about seizing the economic opportunity and creating good-paying jobs in every pocket of America, making sure every community participates and benefits from our clean energy transition. We've set ambitious goals, and we know what needs to happen, but we need your help to get there. We all need to work together if we're going to be successful. And again, that's why this alliance is so exciting and so crucial for the future of American battery industry. It's the first public-private alliance of its kind in the US battery industry, collectively representing over 600 companies across the battery ecosystem. It's going to engage with other key players up and down the supply chain: miners, extractors, material processors, cell and pack manufacturers, recyclers, original equipment manufacturers, et cetera, to discuss challenges and, most importantly, to implement real-world scalable solutions. Working together, we're confident at the Department of Energy we can turbocharge the American battery industry over this decade, create jobs across our nation, and play a big, big part in tackling the climate challenge. And thanks so much for all of your leadership, all your partnership in this LiBridge Alliance. We couldn't be more excited and supportive. And before passing it back over, Paul, to you, let me just say a nice, kind word. Senator Dick Durbin, one of the senators in Illinois where Argonne is located. My parents live in Illinois. I grew up in Illinois, and I've had the chance to see Senator Durbin's work over many years on this issue and so many others. And it's just incredible to have his leadership on this effort as well. So Paul, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary Turk. Really fantastic to hear about the exciting vision that you've laid out, and also recognize the challenges that are ahead in terms of achieving that vision, and then also appreciate your thoughts on the aggressive efforts that we'll take as a nation really to move forward in terms of really energy storage and batteries as a national priority. So thank you very much. Next, the plan was to introduce Senator Dick Durbin, and as we might expect, he's pressed with a couple other matters. We do expect him to join shortly, but I think in the interest of really using our time efficiently, we'll move ahead and we'll work Senator Durbin into the agenda when he's able to join us. On our panel today, they're going to help us go into more detail on how we can build the necessary bridges across the battery ecosystem. I'm pleased to welcome Renee Arsenault, President-elect of NatBat International and a technical expert of advanced battery recycling, and a senior researcher of energy storage at the Ford Motor Company. We also have Bill Acker, Executive Director of the New York Battery and Energy Storage Technology Consortium, and Julie Blunden, co-founder of the Green Mountain Energy Company and board member of the New Energy Nexus. So Renata, please start us off, and hopefully Senator Durbin will be able to follow. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here representing NatBat, but also speaking as a proud employee of Ford Motor Company. Our industry, and indeed our nation, are facing what truly is the challenge of this century. Curbing climate change and retooling an industry that has been the backbone of our manufacturing infrastructure is a historic undertaking. It will require all hands on deck and the development of new supply chains while we regionalize existing ones. Batteries are at the heart of this new ecosystem, whether they are powering millions of American-made EVs, our indispensable consumer electronics, or vast energy storage projects that will help to decarbonize our grids. Batteries will fuel a new era of technology and manufacturing, enabling a spectrum of markets across a long and complex value chain that includes cell and battery production, but also the critical upstream mining, chemical refining, and processing of engineered materials needed to feed our gigafactories. These gigafactories are rising across the country thanks in part to unprecedented investments and commitments to carbon neutrality from Ford and our OEM colleagues. But today, our American gigafactories rely primarily on materials that are mined and refined offshore. Aside from the financial and environmental consequences of this, we have been seeing example after example of the devastating economic impacts caused by supply chain disruptions. In June, FCAB released their ambitious national blueprint for lithium-based batteries. This important work identified critical gaps and the framework of a strategy to close them. And now we need to execute. This means building the elements of a robust, secure, and sustainable domestic ecosystem before the dominance being established by other countries becomes insurmountable. To succeed in this momentous task demands collaboration and alignment between the private and public sectors and academia, and LiBridge will provide a mechanism to help achieve these goals. It will bring in voices of trade associations such as NatBat and its 170 plus members representing the North American advanced battery industry. Since its founding in 2008, NatBat has been holding conferences, workshops, and webinars on topics ranging from supply chain security, emerging regulations, next-gen technologies, recycling, end-of-life battery logistics, and second use. It has funded and published major studies, notably one by Avi Sen on the Chinese battery recycling market, and just recently, NatBat's North American lithium-ion battery supply chain database. This was the culmination of many months of work led by 3 NatBat committees working with our National Renewable Energy Laboratory, NREL. Joining NatBat will be Battery Association's New York Best with their focus on cell and cell components for energy storage, and New Energy Nexus, formerly CalCEF, an international nonprofit accelerator for clean energy, including production and refining of energy materials. The new energy ecosystem will not look like our old one, and innovation and technology will be needed to ensure that the critically needed extraction and refining, battery production and recycling are designed with sustainability front and center. And this transition away from fossil fuels will require training new workforces and retraining existing ones, arming them with new skills. The needs across all of the companies and market sectors represented here are diverse and varied. Through LiBridge, we will move forward collectively to establish a sustainable battery ecosystem from raw material processing and battery production through recycling and its ability to recover materials that feed right back into the circular economy we are striving for. I'll hand things over now to Bill Acker, Executive Director of New York Battery and Energy Storage Technology Consortium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renata. New York Best is delighted to be part of this effort. We see it as a critical step for advancing the energy storage industry and achieving our climate goals for the United States of America. For those of you who may not be familiar with New York Best, the New York Battery and Energy Storage Technology Consortium was formed in 2010 to advance the energy storage industry. We run many programs, a series of conferences that we hold every year over the course of that 10-year period, and are a major convener of the energy storage industry, particularly including stationary storage, electric vehicle storage, and various component and manufacturing processes and academia in developing those, and also have created a number of studies and roadmaps, particularly for the state of New York, but also other activities to advance the industry. As has been said in previous remarks, our climate change goals hinge almost entirely upon our ability to electrify transportation and to create a decarbonized grid. Both of those are critically tied to the energy storage industry. You just heard from Renata of the incredible efforts that are going on in the electric vehicle industry to advance our goals. I'll spend a moment talking about decarbonizing the electricity grid, because that's sort of the other leg of the stool in order to create and achieve our climate change goals. And when we look at this, what we're really seeing is an incredible convergence. I call it the great convergence of energy. Because if you think about it, over the years, the transportation industry and electric grid industry have been almost two entirely separate industries using different fuels and different infrastructure. Today, that is all coming together. We're seeing an opportunity now to have this convergence have a lot of benefits for both of the industries. And one of those is the combined supply chains and the work that's being done in domestic manufacturing of energy storage. In order to decarbonize the electricity grid, we need to have renewable energy, but we also need to have assets that provide the support for the grid when the renewable energy is not flowing. That means that we need a lot of energy storage, both in the form of shorter duration batteries and longer duration dispatchable assets. One study recently from New York State showed that we need approximately the same amount of energy storage as we do for each of the key renewables that are being deployed, wind and solar on the grid, for a fully decarbonized grid, to put this into scale. So we have tens of thousands of megawatts of energy storage being deployed on the electricity grid right now in queue, and we need to have a supply chain that supports that. In addition to a supply chain that can support it with traditional technologies, we have a need for innovation that allows us both to leapfrog what the rest of the world is doing in many cases and continue to improve these technologies. Fortunately, our innovation economy in the United States is phenomenal. Our ability to translate that to manufacturing has always been a challenge. Many New York Best members have had to have invented technologies and have had to take them overseas to commercialize, to manufacture. LiBridge is intended to change that. LiBridge allows us an opportunity to domestically manufacture and to focus on areas that may traditionally not been areas of intent for right now. We talk a lot about cell manufacturing. Component manufacturing is incredibly important. Making the electrodes, making the electrolytes, making the various different pieces so that we have the entire supply chain domestically produced here in the United States. So I will conclude by just spending a moment on the importance of this work. We do see this as a critical step forward and applaud the Department of Energy for their steps to integrate industry into the discussion in this way and to have a cross-pollination and a bidirectional flow of information as we make our plans and develop the domestic supply chain in the United States. So New York Best is delighted to participate in this. And I believe I was going to introduce Julie London next, but do you want to go to Senator Durbin at the moment?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill. I really appreciate it, the opportunity to step in and provide an introduction for Senator Dick Durbin. As Illinois' senior senator, he's been a long-time champion of science and of the national laboratories and their impactful R&D, specifically in energy storage. Most recently, he wrote an op-ed promoting Illinois as an epicenter for electric vehicle production and highlighted the importance of continued innovation in energy storage. In the Senate, he serves as Majority Whip, chair of the Judiciary Committee, and sits on the Appropriations and Agriculture Committees. He was first elected to the U.S. Senate in 1996. Before then, he represented a Springfield, Illinois-based district in the U.S. House for 14 years. Thank you, Senator Durbin, for your leadership and support of our efforts. I'll turn it over to you at this point. So thank you very much for joining. I believe you're on mute, sir.
Can you hear me? I hope.
Yes.
Thanks, Paul, for that nice introduction. And I understand that Congresswoman Debbie Dingell will be joining. I hope she will be today as well. She's a dear friend of mine for many, many years, and we are partners in a lot of legislative efforts. She's a true leader, and she understands the automobile industry more than most in Congress from her life before she was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives to succeed her legendary husband, John Dingell. So, Debbie, welcome aboard. Anything you can say good about Argonne is going to be music to my ears as well. So thank you for this. So let me tell you a story, if I can. 6 years ago, we lost a major employer in downstate Illinois. Mitsubishi Motor Company that built a plant in Normal, Illinois, went out of business. 1,000 workers walked off the job, and that was the last paycheck they would receive from Mitsubishi. Well, America is covered with a lot of former automobile manufacturing plants, but there was a future for this plant, which we didn't envision at that moment. It was 5 years ago, a year after Mitsubishi closed, that Mayor Chris Coos of Normal, Illinois, and a lot of community leaders found an occupant for the plant. It was a new vehicle producer by the name of Rivian. It was just a theory, a concept at the time, but it was one that we believe could be served by this plant facility in Normal, Illinois. I think you already know the rest of the story. Rivian is off and running. As of today, they have not only revitalized this plant, they're adding on to the original plant structure. They have 2,000 workers on the job producing electric vehicles. and anticipate thousands more will join them in the years to come. They've received dramatic financial support, not only from Ford Motor Company, but also from Amazon. And they're building the next generation of electric delivery vehicles for Amazon. They were even brave enough to allow me to come and drive one of their test vehicles on the grounds. And it was quite a thrill to be in this Rivian, more or less SUV truck configuration, which I'm sure is going to be extremely popular. I tell you this story because we were lucky to find them and they were lucky to find us. And we believe that this is the beginning of an important conversation about the future of electric vehicles in the state of Illinois. That's not the only electric vehicle operation that's found our state. Lion Electric out of Montreal, Canada came into Joliet. They're going to build electric school buses and trucks. Glad to have them. EV Box out of the Netherlands is the largest supplier in Europe of charging equipment for electric vehicles. They're located in McHenry County in Illinois, so things are looking good. But what's looking extremely good is Argonne National Laboratory. Long before these business operations started, Argonne was doing amazing work in battery technology. And this recent grant from the Department of Energy is an incredible endorsement of their fine work and a shot in the arm as we look to the future. We need to make sure that this battery technology reflects the real needs of America moving forward. Now, last night there was good news on Capitol Hill, and boy, we're glad when that can be said. We have the beginning of an agreement on reconciliation. One of the major parts of this agreement addresses the issue of climate change, and it also addresses investments in renewable and sustainable sources of energy across our country. We are finally coming to the realization that climate change isn't going to go away. We've got to make every effort we can to change this world for the better and to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Part of that is going to be battery technology. Thank goodness Argonne National Laboratory is going to lead the way again, as they have so many times in the past. It is quite an honor. In fact, it's a joy to represent Argonne in Washington. I'm going to continue to work and do everything I can to make sure that it continues to lead the nation in the conversation about battery technology and other scientific breakthroughs. And I just want to thank everyone for gathering today. Congratulations on this latest Department of Energy announcement. I'm looking forward to working together in the years and months to come.
Thank you very much, Senator Durbin. Fantastic. I really appreciate your support and your commitment as well. Really noteworthy. Turns out that Congresswoman, Dingle will not be able to join. She's got another commitment she needs to tend to, apparently. So no problem. I think we're having a great roundtable, and we'll continue on the path, really doing just that. So next, it's my honor to really ask Julie Blunden, co-founder of Green Mountain Energy Company and board member of New Energy Nexus, to provide a few remarks. So please, Julie.
Thanks so much. First of all, I speak as an Ohioan, and I can tell you the heartland of America is ready to manufacture. It is fantastic to have Senator Durbin do such a great job talking about the companies that have been drawn to the heartland to create new opportunities for jobs, for technology, and for delivering products and services that customers really want. I think that's a key point. Today, I speak on behalf of New Energy Nexus. I've been a board member since 2013 and have helped shepherd the organization from being really US focused to globally focused. However, what we do, which is support clean energy entrepreneurs by funding, accelerating, incubating, and networking them to really drive the innovation of the clean energy revolution, that organization does exactly what we're talking about today in connecting the public funding and the private innovators to create change. We execute programs, in fact, last year were over 39 globally, including those that provide public funding through our networks to entrepreneurs, more than 450 of them in 2020. Several dozen of those are specific to batteries and all of the components and the supply chain all the way back to lithium recovery and refining. Fantastic to be able to work with such a great group of folks. Thank you. Thank you to the Department of Energy for motivating on this and doing such a great job of working with the White House and on FAB. Really quite impressive work by DOE. Fabulous to be able to work with one of my favorite national labs, right up there with our labs in the Bay Area that we've worked with at New Energy Nexus for many years, Lawrence Berkeley, Lawrence Livermore, and SLAC. What I'd also like to do is talk about the fact that when we talk about security, a secure, robust, equitable domestic supply chain for batteries, what that means is de-risked. And right now, if there was ever a moment where our automakers who are leading the charge for electrification of transportation, understanding de-risking their supply chain, I think the semiconductor shortages have offered an insight as to how critical it will be in the future when batteries are such a huge part of the bill of materials for an auto in the future. Let me also say that when it comes to innovation, there's really two pieces of the barbell. There's the side that is the large scale demand. Let me put that as the automakers. I'll speak to stationary storage. I'm so glad Bill mentioned stationary storage as part of that conversation in just a sec. But the other side is the innovators. How do we take the current generation of batteries and the entire supply chain back to the methods of lithium recovery and refining and convert that to a lower cost, faster, and better supply chain that is de-risked for the entire supply chain, from OEMs to stationary storage and ultimately to residences who are putting batteries on their houses for resilience. One of the ways we do that is make sure that we have a truly secure domestic supply chain for each part of that structure. It doesn't mean 100% of supply will come from the United States, but a material part needs to be domestic. Let me come back to OEMs and stationary storage for just a minute. Our automakers in the United States they know this is true. We have Renata in with us today from the Ford Motor Company. We have fantastic leadership. But that demand is a scale that is so much larger than what the stationary storage folks that are supporting the grid, and a longer view than what the stationary storage folks have today. Unfortunately, it's going to be the transportation sector that has to create that demand pull. The stationary storage folks are not in the same position. Stationary storage folks will benefit from the fact that transportation electrification is accelerating how fast cheaper batteries are going to be at market, but we need the automakers on board and in charge of that demand pull, and couldn't be happier about the kind of progress we're seeing across the board with great leadership from Ford, among others. Let me just conclude by saying, when it comes to lithium, lithium is a widely available element if you look at the crust of our Earth. The question is, how will we make sure that we not just have a secure domestic supply chain, but a truly robust and equitable one? One that is creating jobs that are sustainable, ones that are including communities in decisions around how we recover lithium, many different ways to do so, which ways are going to be appropriate for the communities where those resources currently live. That is a critical question. It is one that we need to answer in a way that we have not achieved the pace historically of answering these kinds of questions like we need to do today. I want to give a shout out to the California Energy Commission and the work they've done with the legislature, particularly Eddie Garcia, in creating the Lithium Valley Commission for the Salton Sea. That kind of concept of ensuring community engagement and making sure that we have a truly secure and equitable supply chain all the way back to lithium recovery is exactly the kind of model we need across the United States. Thanks so much for being invited to participate today.
Well, thank you, Julie. Let me also thank Renata and Bill for their remarks. Considering really the arc of the conversation we've had and the comments made by each of our representatives from our private partners, it's really exciting, really, to think about the future and what we'll be able to accomplish together as we move forward. I'm confident that I speak on behalf of all the national laboratories, saying that we're quite excited about this partnership and working together to really make a difference, and really want to acknowledge your comments and your commitments as well. Before we close, I'd like to give an opportunity to Dave Howell, Acting Director of the Vehicle Technologies Office, to address this roundtable. Dave is responsible for the Department of Energy's $340 million advanced vehicle R&D portfolio. He has over 30 years of experience planning and executing complex multidisciplinary R&D activities. As the first chair of the new Federal Consortium for Advanced Batteries, FCAB, he will lead the public effort to bring together industry and government for this critical initiative. Dave, please.
Thank you, Paul. And I'd like to thank Argonne National Laboratory, and particularly, Venkat Srinivasan and his team, for being the tip of the spear of the blade on our side to pull this together. And thank you, Renata and Bill and Julie, for all your hard work as well to structure this alliance. I just have a few minutes. I just want to mention how this hopefully works together with FCAB. So as Deputy Secretary Turk stated, standing up the LiBridge Alliance is one of the key actions that the administration is taking to support America's supply chains. And this alliance fills a critical need in our efforts to enable that resilient, high-capacity battery supply chain for the U.S. But not only complements activities undertaken by the Federal Consortium for Advanced Batteries, FCAB, but will serve as a force multiplier. So as many of you hopefully know, FCAB provides a framework for cooperation and coordination among federal agencies, all having a stake in developing advanced battery technology and establishing a domestic supply base for lithium batteries. In addition to DOE, FCAB includes the Departments of Commerce, Defense, State, and 10 other federal agencies, and cuts across about over 40 offices within the agencies, and all with interest in the battery supply chain. And we do have our national roadmap, a multi-year plan through the National Blueprint for Lithium Batteries 2021 to 2030, which codifies the findings of our 100-day high-capacity supply chain report that was called for in President Biden's executive order on American supply chains. So the blueprint lays out 5 critical goals and key actions that's going to be important to guide our collaboration both within FCAB and with the LiBridge. So LiBridge, of course, connecting a significant number of industry battery stakeholders already through these associations, over 600 to speak of. So LiBridge will provide that ongoing industry-government interaction to support our activities to stand up the battery supply chain and to support it. And it will also be an important forum for industry to dialogue across battery supply chain, from minerals to materials to cells and packs to recycling, and not to forget in-use applications. And hopefully this whole effort between FCAB and LiBridge will be a clear channel for entry for international allies and partners to engage as well. So together with the LiBridge and FCAB, we will bring together key federal and industry stakeholders organized around the supply chain to discuss all the needs and serve to bolster and secure the entire lithium battery ecosystem. So with that, I just want to provide a special thank you again to Paul Kearns and Oak Ridge National Laboratory and our DOE lab partners, and to the battery associations for bringing commitment and structure to this alliance. We're just getting started, and I look forward to working with my federal colleagues and our industrial partners and key research institutions to seize this moment and work together to build out a sustainable high-capacity ecosystem for our nation. So with that, Paul, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Dave. I really appreciate your comments. And as you said, we're just getting started. So I think it's fantastic, really. Let me also extend my thanks to our colleagues at the Department of Energy's Vehicle Technologies Office, Michael Barabee, Connie Bezanson, Stephen Boyd, and Brian Cunningham. So thank you very much for your support and your engagement. And we appreciate Deputy Secretary Turk and Senator Durbin for being here and providing comments as well. We're really grateful for their leadership as we confront climate change together. Lastly, let me thank everyone for attending our roundtable and supporting the launch of this critical partnership. We had an engaging and insightful discussion. Our work today will advance tomorrow's batteries. Over the next few months, we will be engaging with various stakeholders to build LiBridge and address the supply chain gap. With the help of our national laboratory partners and the convener organization LiBridge, we will be organizing a series of forums to bring private industry, research institutions, and the federal government to align all parties towards a vision of creating a domestic lithium battery supply chain while ensuring equitable job creation, advancing social justice, and meeting our national security needs. We welcome your participation in helping us build LiBridge. Together, we are promoting the public-private partnerships that will advance energy storage for the future. With your support, we will continue to accelerate the science and technology that drive U.S. prosperity and security. Thank you again for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon.